Good late Thursday evening to everyone. Thank you, all of you who are here, for being here. I am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, and welcome to the program, everybody. And whether we start at the usual 9 o'clock hour or I push it back really late and we do something super late like an 11 o'clock, this live stream is brought to you by our friends at Hellabard Games. Hellabard makes the kind of adventures they'd like to play, whether it's for 5th edition, for Castles and Crusades, or for the OSR. Old School is in play at the table with Hellabard, and you can find them on their website at hellabardgames.com or on Drive-Thru RPG. Hello, everyone. Once again, and as always, it is good to see you, and it is good to be seen by you. Hey, Patty, thanks for dipping in at the very least. I know it's exceptionally late, guys. I know this is not normally my modus operandi. It has been a little bit as of late. And no, we're not going to do more deep. We are going to do more deep dive on L2, just not tonight, guys. I didn't have the brain power for it. I have been pulled in a bunch of different directions today, running honeydews and getting stuff done. Jorge, good to see you, and I hope you're well. So I'm just keeping on and trying to just trying to do my thing. That is correct, Michael. Myconids are from first edition advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and they first appeared in Dungeon Module A4 in the Dungeons of the Slave Lords. They're a new type of module that appears there. They were created, of course, by, I believe, Alan Hammock and Dave Cook worked on that module. You know what? I'm going to have to look. I think if I can see it and I cannot kill myself, unalive myself, excuse me, YouTube. I just got demoned. Somebody super chat. I just got demonetized. If I can do this without causing a kerfuffle, let me see here. In the Dungeons of the Slave Lords, I'm sorry, A4 is Law Schick. A4 is all Law Schick, and of course, this is my Errol Otis autographed copy of A4, and he told me the story of the fight going on here. He said, I love the story here. I've got a little story going on. Like, okay, this guy will probably win. That could be a tie, but this guy's dead over here, is what he said, and how he said it exactly. So yes, the Myconids originally showed up here, and then they appeared again, of course, in Monster Manual 2, and there's different breeds and strengths of Myconids. So but we can look at them real quick. Of course, I don't have this module pulled up to share with you guys, but let's look at the stats just real briefly. Their hit dice goes from 1 to 6, which of course increases their XP. Thank you, Vaughn. I appreciate that. They have spore clouds and poisonous skin. Armor class is only 10, so you can chop them down pretty easy. Hey, there's Doomsword. And they're really, really trippy monsters, literally, because they can release spore clouds that can control you. I actually have an STL of this. I can 3D print those. I can 3D print Mushroom Man. Do you know the Mushroom Man? So I hope that answers your question about the Myconids, at least briefly. They're one of my favorite and least favorite monsters in AD&D because, well, I should say type of monsters. I should say type of monsters because I like a monster that's easy to pick up, like giant rats. Boom, there you go, giant rats. Boom. Yes, Derek, man, the Mushroom Man. But the the myconids, they have all these different special attacks, and I don't dislike it. It can just be very fiddly. It's like, oh, do I really want to, you know? It's like another example, Githyanki and Githzerai. Very hard to use as drop-in monsters. Love a mini of one of them fighting a Smurf. I don't. Well, there's probably a Smurf STL, so find somebody who can 3D print. And Robert is married to your mother's sister or her brother. So anyway, how they got tied to the, I don't think there's a tied to the they're mushroom people. They live where mushrooms are. That's it. There's myconids of a sort in Star Frontiers, Crash on Volturnus, or possibly the second Volturnus module. I'm not sure. But anyway, no spoilers. You're muting for a few. Okay. I suppose they could, Jorge. I suppose they could. So anyway, but back to what I was gonna say this about the show. I do put on kind of a front, and it's not a false front necessarily, but I do put on a front where I'll run my show at a usual slot, and I would hesitate to call what I do professional, but I mean, it is my show, and I do have an approach that I take. But as I showed on Twitter the other night, I said, here's, for those of you who are curious what my praxis is, how I do things, let me share a picture of my org chart with you. And it's just a square with the Dungeon Delver written in the middle. There's no like branches coming off of it or dotted lines or different grids. It's just a single square with the Dungeon Delver in the middle. That's my org. So, if I can't brain good and this is the best I can do, then this is the best you guys get. This isn't self-deprecation or depreciation, rather. This is not like, oh, feel bad for me, I'm sad. It's not. It's just, guys, sometimes I run out of energy. It's like 6 nights a week you can come home and throw the ball around for the dog and the frisbee and walk him up and down a bunch of times. And then, on that 7th day, you're just like, I'm bushed, buddy. I'll sit here on the porch and I'll roll the ball out in the driveway. And if you want to come pick it up and then bring it back, we can do that. But, and sometimes that hits me here. And I would rather have a night of just BSing with you guys than I would just doing a half-ass job on a deep dive. But we have had a lot of fun this week, guys. And let me tell you what. So if you're new to the show, we're at 6,523 subscriptions on this channel. So some folks have joined up in the last couple of days. And welcome. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. So if you're newly subscribed, I really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, I actually do content. This is content. It may not be the best content, but this is good content. But please do click the subscribe button. Click the bell icon for notifications to find out when I'm going to be sitting around doing nothing next, because you never know. So yeah, sometimes there are just nights when it's just time to sit back and metaphorically put my feet. I don't think I have. I don't think I could swing my leg up there. Could I? There's my toes. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Steve Miller talks. Hey, whoa. Don't you have to get down to Swingtown? Take that big old jet airliner. It won't carry you too far away. Oh. Anyway, uh-oh. Be quiet. RPG grandma's listening. Shh. Well, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And as long as you guys are having fun, that's good. Yeah, D's flying like an eagle. When I was a kid and I first heard that song, you know, Steve Miller is a fantastic lyricist, guitarist. Holy crap, Fandango. That just lovely, just rollicking, jangly guitar of Fandango. I love that. And I see you're a prepper, RPG grandma. Anyway, but one of his lyrics in Fly Like an Eagle, when I was a little kid, I could not figure out feed the babies who don't have enough to eat, house the people living on the street, shoe the children with no shoes on their feet. That is to say, put shoes on their feet. Young Bill Sylvie heard shoot the children with no shoes on their feet. I was like, that was a really dark turn. I did not expect this guy on the radio to tell me to do that. Derek Mann says, I'm not welcome to Steve Miller concerts. I was Steve Miller Band. Oh, God. Woof. That was, oh my God. Hey, Matt, thanks for stopping by. But anyway, yeah, so all that nonsense aside, those guys, I'm just I just wanted to hang out tonight. I got to be honest with you. I feel kind of rotten about something that might happen tomorrow. Yeah, no, I need to adjust that. So let me tell you about an awesome guy, and you guys saw the pictures of him in the slideshow last night. His name's Paul Stormberg. Paul has never been anything but awesome to me. Paul, if you're listening, and I know you're not, but if you're listening, Paul, you are a stellar person. And so Paul reached out to me a few weeks ago and he said, hey, 3D printing guy, over the internet, over standard TCP IP. Doors are looking good. Temple is looking good. I need something else from you. Have you got a 3D model of Grimorley? And I said, no, but I can make one. So he said, good, do it. So I did it. And he said, fine, 3D print it. I need it by the 7th. And I was like, don't get pushy. I'll do it. The conversation was much more amenable than this. So I had to fart around with it to get it to scale up properly. So I threw it in 3D Studio and I finally started printing it a couple of nights ago. And at the resolution and with the care that I wanted to give it, it took hours and hours and hours to print. Both of them were screwed up in different ways. And I said, well, poop. So last night, after the show, immediately after the show, I got up and So here's a little content that should go on the 3D printing channel that I have all the free time in the world to do. Like, I wish I had the presence of mind to bring like the camera out and narrate what I was doing. This would have made great 3D printing channel content. So 3D printer. Very, very good, Michael Marte. Got like that. 3D printer. Picture in your mind a stack of components. So there's a metal shell. We don't care about the metal shell. Forget the metal shell. There's a UV lamp, a very powerful UV lamp. Above that is a liquid crystal display screen with a transparent sealant around it. Above that directly is a glass plate. It's a screen protector. What sits on top of that, hello, tall Aaron, is what is sometimes called a vat. Sometimes it's called a tank. That tank is made out of aluminum or very hard plastic. The bottom of that tank is removable, and it is made out of a sheet of clear mylar or some other clear plastic that is held taut by a frame like the head of a drum. That is called the FEP. Don't ask me what FEP means. I will figure it out before I start up the 3D printing channel. All right, so keep that in mind. You pour resin into that tank. The next layer is something that's alternately called the build plate, the print head, the print plate. This is controlled by an arm behind it that lowers it into the tank. It goes down into the tank and presses very firmly against the top side of the FEP. The UV light and the LCD screen switch on at the same time. The LCD screen creates a picture of the very first layer of what you're trying to print. The UV light hardens that resin, and it sticks to the bottom of the build plate, and it sticks to the top of the FEP. Now, the FEP is ever so slightly flexible. It can't be rigid. You can't make it out of glass or clear plastic. It has to give a little bit. So when the build plate pulls up, if you're standing next to your printer and listening carefully, you'll hear a thunk as it pulls up. The plate moves up a little, the plate comes back down, it dips back into the resin, it pushes down the thickness of that layer and not any further. It doesn't try to press any further. The LCD screen comes on and shows a picture of the next layer. The UV lamp comes on and hardens resin for the next layer, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. What's up, Road March? So let's go back to the FEP. The FEP is flexible plastic. Over time, because it stretches up slightly when the head comes up, it will lose its elasticity. It will wear out, and you have to change it. There are no fewer than 60 screws holding the FEP taut in the frame. And each one takes about a minute to get out because you have to break them and then you have to unscrew them and then set them aside. So it took me 2 hours to change the FEP last night and start another print. Because in the interim, after the failed 2 wizard prints, I tried a third time, and that one that just failed completely. So I said, screw it. I'm changing the FEP. I'm leveling the bed, not getting into that with you guys right now. I used fresh resin. I cracked open a new bottle of resin after I'd mixed it carefully and put that in there. I got a perfect print today. Paul said, send me the least flawed. I need these tomorrow. Tomorrow being tomorrow when I talked to him today. Send me the least damaged of the first two you printed. And I said, okay, the only thing that's wrong with that is his foot didn't print. That's fine. If you guys know Grimorley from the D&D logo, from the TSR logo, you can't see his feet. Paul said, I'll snap the other foot off and just mount that one straight to the plaque. I was like, cool. He said, I'll decide if I'm going to do that with the second one, but that one I can still work with. Send me those. While I'm on the phone with him out there this morning, I clean them up. I send it off. He has to leave his home in the Western Midwest to drive for a day to get to Wisconsin, and he has to paint them. I should have painted them. I should have taken 30 minutes to paint them, to send them on, to spare him. They might not get there on time. I have failed Paul again. If Paul unfriends me, I will completely deserve it. I hope that's not the case. I don't think Paul would unfriend me. Don't go write nasty letters to Paul and say, not to do that. I just don't want to disappoint, and I fear that I have disappointed. Dave, there's things you can do to vary the Vile Necromancer. Vile Necromancer. Guys, it's Vile Necromancer. What's up? Yeah, it and the Vile Necromancer is absolutely right. By the way, if you guys don't know, Vile Necromancer has a YouTube channel. It's got some good content to start. Go subscribe right now. I want everybody, if you're not subscribed to Vile Necromancer, go to his YouTube channel, look for the Vile Necromancer on YouTube, and subscribe to his channel. But he's saying the absolute truth. It does take a piece of work to get. Once your resin printer is dialed in, you're going to be knocking out miniatures left, right, and center. But I'm serious. I'm gonna check on you guys here. FEP generally lasts for a long time. Now, Doomsword and I, we got these printers for like $160. Hello, 2470 QWERTY. Hello, hi. He and I both, Doomsword and I both jumped on the same sale. But this thing, I don't know if it's because it has a bigger printing surface or what, but man, this thing bitches about FEP lifespan. So I'm going to tell you guys what FEP means. Fluorinated ethylene polypropylene. A material known for its good chemical resistance and non-stick properties. Although there are several suitable alternatives out there. Let's see. All right, kids. He's at 110 subs. There's 24 of us here. There's no reason he shouldn't be at 134 by the end of the night. I'm putting this up on screen. Everybody go subscribe if you're not already. Right there. So it does take some work to get a resin 3D printer dialed in, and the FlashForge 8.9 photo takes take some fiddling with. With resin, it's always print the test right after setting up and leveling. Yes. It is always test the print right after setting up and leveling. Is it a toss violation if he goes to a graveyard, animates, and folds? I don't think so, Steve. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a fine idea. Vile Necromancer, get you out there and animate some. 112. That's what I like to see. Yes, he has. It's been a while since he's updated his content, guys, but it's good classic TTRPG content. Vile, are you still out there in the audience? Give me a hoorah if you're out there. But anyway, so I dealt with that. I dealt with that. And when I told Paul, he was like, yeah, just clean him up and send him straight away. So I took, hey, Paint Minis Live, how are you? PML, are you subscribed to the Vile Necromancer on YouTube? There's his channel. Go subscribe, please. It wouldn't let you sub to him should you unsub first so that you can. If you're subscribed, then yes, the Delver effect. Excellent, Vile. Excellent. That's good to know, my friend. So you're busy right now, then? Is that it? You're busy? Because I was going to drag you on the show because it's been a while since we shot the poop. Still here? No, I started very late, Graph. I didn't start till 11 o'clock. We've only been here for like 30 minutes. We will be technically going into tomorrow because I have a feeling this video will easily go into midnight and beyond. Speaking of videos and conventions and Paul and everything like that, so if you watched last night, we had a good show last night, and you should definitely check it out. Yes, Michael, subscribe to his channel. You'll find this out. The URL's on the screen. Good Lord. It's already tomorrow where Jorge is. I'm needling you, Michael. Needle, 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 needle. But last night we looked at LGGC 06, a little bit, I think, of 07. If we didn't, I'm going to get some 07 pictures to show you guys. Not tonight, but I will get the 07 pictures up there. But we also looked at Milwaukee Game Fest 2004 pictures, and between those two bunches, I have four videos that are relevant, because there's like a bunch of videos of it, because half of one of the discs was our trip later that summer to the Florida Keys to see some friends of ours. Shoot me an email real quick, Necro. Vile Necro, shoot me an email real quick. I haven't seen this young man in almost a year. It has been that long, brother. But shoot me an email right now, and I will shoot you back the link. Yes, I have made many miniatures before. So it clocks at about it's right there. It's on the screen. The PayPal, the bsylvia@gmail.com is me, Vile Necro. Just it's going across the bottom of the screen right now. But anyway, I have maybe a total of 4 minutes worth of video in 4 videos, and the majority of it is in one video. It's like 2 minutes and 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 45 seconds, you know. So 28 watching the stream. That's awesome. Thank you all very much. I have my email open. I'm waiting to hear from you, Vile Necromancer, bsylvie@gmail.com. And as soon as I get that, I will send you back the link to the show, and you can jump in and say hi. But anyhow, so what I'm going to do is edit those into one video for you guys to view on YouTube. And I'm going to admit, I'm going to have to pad it out like at the beginning and the end. And I'll have, you know, some credits, or not credits, but subtitles on what's going on and that sort of thing. But the thing is, the longest portion has a good chunk of the artist Darlene in it. I am going to ask her if it is permissible to use that clip. Everyone else, I don't care. I genuinely don't care. They want to get mad at me, they can get mad at me. But Darlene, I want to make sure it's okay with her. She is an exceptionally nice lady, and I want to make, once I have her clearance on that, I'll have a bumper with a beginning, and you know, I'll put up you know, subtitles and text on the screens and everything, and let people know, like, oh, here's Gary Gygax, here's Bill Hoyer, here's Jeff Perrin, here's me, here, you know, so on. So that will be the what is on that. So you guys are going to get a little short video, and once I can, you know, pad it out to a decent running time, something that you guys can enjoy, 8 or 10 minutes, I will upload that. And it and I'm feeling inspired, so I'll probably start doing the same stuff with my GaryCon photos. Like we'll have a GaryCon 2023 looky loo soon, I think, because you guys seem to enjoy that. And then I can piece together all the little video bits and so on and etc. into the supercut that I've been intending to. I'm feeling inspired now. I'd say I'll ask Paul, but I don't know if Paul will ever talk to me again. So that's a thing that's going to happen. Shot me an email. Looking in my email, bsylvie@gmail.com. I'm going to make sure it didn't fall into spam. I don't see it. It's not here. I will punch you, PML. I don't think Paul is upset about a thing. I can honestly say I've never seen Paul upset about anything. It's not the doors, it's the Grimorley miniatures that I printed up that are trophy toppers. That I overnighted to him today and are now in the hands of the post office. And I don't know if they'll be at his house on time. No, the only IRL con I'll be there. It is. I see your email now. Thank you. All right, so let me do this. Let me invite, copy, make sure I don't paste that to you goons because I don't want any of you in here. Okay, Necro, it is sent, my friend. It is sent to you. I eagerly await your joining us. Yeah, guys, seriously, subscribe to his channel. Do it now. I ain't asking anymore. 114 subs? No. We can do better than that. But anyway, so yeah, I took them to the post office before noon today, and I just pray to God that they get there before Paul has to leave tomorrow. I'm going to feel absolutely destroyed if they don't get there on time. Yeah. Hey, thanks for hanging around, Steve. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll, if you haven't subscribed, I hope you will subscribe. Please do click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. Yeah, see, here's the funny thing, PML. They didn't get my damn doors to Lake Geneva on time either. And I didn't get shit for a refund. Woohoo! Thank you, Steve Miller. But I got to ask, you're not the Steve Miller, are you? I'm not going to say who, but there's some actual celebrities that have reached out to me and said they're fans of the show, and I keep their confidence. But I just wanted to ask, maybe you were a little upfront about it. And if you are, oh my God, I love your work. Now everybody's waiting to see if he says yes. Bingo, Jed had a light on. You know what I wish I could do as, I mean, I guess I can share screen, but how cool would it be? Yeah, I mean, he's been working all day, Doomsword. He's been playing his music in the sun. Like, how cool would it be if he could use the snipping tool to cut a piece of screen and drag it and drop it as an image just straight in? Uh-oh, we have a guest. Everybody, put your hands together for the Midwest magician himself, this absolute dungeon madman. Everybody, please welcome my buddy, and he better be yours, the Vile Necromancer. What is up? What is up? How have you been, man? It's been a minute.
Yeah, I landed myself a government job somehow. Don't know how.
I'm sorry. A what? Are you a Fed? Are you a glowy? Should I be afraid now? Is this a glow up?
It's been weird. So I work at my state's capital. They have like a program for students to come and like work for a semester. And I was like, well, I could either stay at school or be a pawn to the government. So I'm gonna go with the pawn to the government. And I've been working there for 4 months now. Yeah, we end in May. So
Well, man, that's awesome. I say there's a fine line between selling out and cashing in,
yeah,
and you sir have cashed in. Now I have to ask because in your videos you got a very raw sort of coming to you from an Atlas 2 silo vibe going on in the background of your videos, but it looks like you've stepped up a little. I see the tabard, the sword.
oh yeah.
So do we have new digs? Tell us about the new digs.
So I previously had all my stuff down in my basement,
Okay.
because that was just the area that fit all my friends. But I've gone through the process of redoing my room to fit my tables and my friends. I play with about 3, 4 guys, and I'm like, I don't need this much space. I just really need my bedroom. So I took the pictures, which you can see in like almost all my videos, and put them up here.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and that's a mask I got in New Orleans last summer, but just kind of filled it with a lot of RPG stuff. I would say the majority of the stuff in here is like either stuff I use at like the Ren Fair, or just like D&D stuff. Like I have 2 full bookshelves of RPG books, like top to bottom.
Right on.
And my friends and I have really enjoyed the fact we have a fan now for our gaming sessions, and don't have to use the big floor fan we had. But I've moved upstairs, and officially we've gotten everything set up. So I have my printer up here. I have everything now from the basement moved up to my room. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's great, man. That is fantastic, and I'm glad you got some new digs. So the question that is on everyone's lips, I know it's on mine, is, and there's no pressure here.
Yeah.
Are we going to see some new Vile Necromancer content, and if so, when?
Yes. You will be.
Okay.
When exactly? Probably over the summer. I have a couple. When I took the hiatus, I was like, okay, I really need to consider. I took a couple months off to myself, probably the first 3 or 4 months, and
I
then
get it.
I started thinking, and I ran into these questions because I started talking to my buddies, and we just started having like conversations about like, why do we role play? And I'm like, these are great questions. And so I kind of took like notes on our conversations. And
Okay.
so my next big project is like a culmination of a lot of video, like ideas I had for video put into one piece. And then the other big video was started as a school project originally, but it's a very in-depth look on the Satanic Panic, kind of like history documentary type thing, and that should be done relatively soon. So
Okay, great. Well, I am keen to see that. That's a very hey, Jonathan Palmer, welcome. That is a very that's a very good topic, and I'm looking forward to seeing your take on it. I mean, because I'm a week or two older than you.
yeah,
You know,
just
I think
probably
my
just a
birthday
few.
was just 1 month ahead of yours, I think. And I lived it, man. Yeah, I'm not going to say it was like some, land breaking cultural event. It wasn't the civil rights movement. It wasn't 9/11. It wasn't Vietnam. But, you know, my parents were caught up in it. And, you had major news organizations. And I know you probably know this from doing your research. 60 Minutes rolled into Lake Geneva and did a glad handling smear job on Gary, because they
It was just like a weird thing because they pestered him for these questions, and like if you look at their which we now have some of the script for the video and some of the interview questions that they were supposed to ask him, and he kept giving these very very good answers, to where they couldn't use it to vilify him, even though they were so hard trying to vilify him. And whether it's, I think it's just some of Gary's genius in handling with these people for so long, that he just got really good at telling people things in a way that they'd understand it. And there was a Tim Kask interview a couple years ago, which I cite in the video, where he talks about it. And I think it was just like all of the guys who worked there just had a really good handling on how to talk to these reporters in a way that wouldn't get them stuck in like shot like a bunch of fish in a barrel later on. So.
Yeah. And that's one thing that, like, because I've been lucky enough, and I don't know if you caught the video. You're a busy young man, right? So, like, if I say, I don't know if you saw this video, dude, don't, they're on the internet there forever. But we've had Heidi Gygax and her husband Eric on it. I mean, when you're Gary Gygax's daughter, you're at the center of the maelstrom. And she has backed this up. They came in and would say, Gary, do you think that Dungeons and Dragons causes teenagers to unalive themselves? No, certainly not. Okay. Gary, is the sky blue? Oh, yes, absolutely. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So just a little cut and paste, a little edity. They chopped up the video, and they when they wanted a yes answer, they got a no answer. They'd ask a yes question and stick the yes answer after the question that originally got a no. It's what 60 Minutes is known to. Everybody talks about 60 Minutes being this great news. It's not. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on.
Yeah.
Fake news was a thing and has been a thing since the Romans sent guys out to yell in the middle of the city squares in Rome. It's the senator in power that calls the tune, and it has been.
Oh, yeah. And I do think it's funny that someone mentions Mothers Against D&D in the comment. I had never experienced much of this, and the thing that like really tipped the iceberg or hit the ship and made it sink was I was at my grandma's house, and she lives in like this retirement community, and a lot of her friends had heard about D&D, and my cousins and I were playing it at the time, and one of these ladies goes, well, I was a part of a group back in the day that was really against Dungeons and Dragons. And I go, question, what was the organization? And she was a member of BAD, and she tried to sit down and talk with me about it for a couple hours. And when she started off being very aggressive about the conversation and saying, well, you really shouldn't be playing this game. And I brought over one of my rule books, and I said, there's nothing in here that's going to change me from thinking the way that I already do. If you can find something in here that does make it seem that way, tell me the page number. I could really use it for a school project right now, because I was writing a paper at the time for a history class on the Satanic Panic. And so she genuinely took my books, and I let her borrow them. She sat down and read through some of them and came back and like apologized. And this was like this lady who never backs down on anything. I've known her. She's a stubborn old lady, very sweet in some cases, but very stubborn. Genuinely came back and apologized to me for some of the things that she had said.
Dude, that's awesome. That's great. So did you roll up a character with her on the spot then, or?
I did suggest I did suggest that she talked to my grandma about the time that my grandma and I played D&D. I ran a solo adventure for her, and if she wanted to play, I'd be more than happy to let her play. But no, it's just interesting seeing people's beliefs and how oftentimes we're told something, but it's very much you're told something, but how much have you looked into it? And that's with anything. You got to do your own research. whenever someone tells me something, a lot of the time I'm like, okay, I'll look into it, but I got to look into it. I can't just take your word for it sometimes.
Yeah, man. I wish that when I was your age, I had had the backbone that you have, to go to my parents and say, hey, let's take, because like my folks, they would stop strangers in a grocery store and say, my boy here read Tolkien when he was 7. J.R.R. Tolkien,
Yeah,
wizards, magic, demons, swords, spells, potions, scrolls, rings, all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's sitting on my shelf actually next to Jack Vance, and there's a great book called The Black Tongue Thief. I'm not sure if you've read it, but I'm reading through it right now. Highly recommend. God, who's the author? I'd have to pull it down, and I'll DM you the author sometime. Great listen.
Well, here, let's see. Let's see. The Black Tongue Thief. That is, who is this? This is Christopher Buellman. And if you guys want to check that out, you can go scope it on, scope this over on Goodreads.
And I would say another good book along those lines. And of course, everyone who plays AD&D should have read Poul Anderson's 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. I just finished it. I read through it at work.
Is that not a phenomenal book, dude?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Amazing book. 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. It is the fundament. Everybody goes, oh yeah, law, neutrality, and chaos, and Gary got that from Warcraft. No, he got that from 3 Hearts and 3 Lions.
Yeah. It's if there's just a couple chapters that you pick out of it. There's a chapter where he deals with a giant. That is even that chapter alone, well worth the read. The chapter where he deals with the lycanthropy. Also, just those 2 chapters alone, I would say, well worth the read in the book. But like the whole Elven Castle, that whole couple chapters where they're dealing with him being, basically duped by these elves and just pulling the wool over his eyes. Those 3 chapters alone are what made me fall in love with the book. But there's so much more content in it that you have to read the whole book to really get.
Unquestionably. And it is, guys, it's, and if I miss anything here, my dude, let me know. But so we have paladins exactly as they are in AD&D, including intelligent war horses. We have regenerating trolls. We have nixies. We have the swan may. We have drow. We have, I believe, are the elves not served by kobolds?
They are, yes.
We have kobolds,
dwarves. There are dwarves. There are dwarves. And there's
a dwarf.
There's also, I believe, similar to Vancian magic, but you do have your material, somatic, and verbal components to your spells in every spell casting scene.
Yes, polymorph self is featured in the book. They meet the philosopher who is able to disguise Holger with polymorph self. Guys, get this book in your library.
Yeah,
it is a thin volume, and it is a vast chunk of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, honestly, I think if you said, Bill, distill D&D down to just a couple of books, it's not The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I love them. They're my number 1 fantasy books. 3 Hearts and 3 Lions and the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser sagas.
Oh, I full-heartedly agree. But I would say for a book that's only I think my copy, because you can get it in smaller print and have it even shorter, my copy is maybe 100 and some pages. For a book that is that short, it is too good of a fantasy novel for a book that short.
Yeah. Oh, unquestionably. And the book, the book that he was talking about was The Black Tongue Thief. And you know what? I'm gonna put this up on the screen real quick, Necro, so everybody can see this. And you can tell me if I'm even looking at the right one. I might not even be. I might not even be showing the right one. And add to stage.
No, that's the right one. Yeah.
That is okay. All right. So the Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman, and the link is it's there in the chat. I just responded to you, the Dave. The High Crusade by Paul Anderson is a lot of fun too. Not super Dungeons and Dragons, but if you want to know maybe where Gary got a little bit of the seasoning, not all of it, but a little bit of the seasoning for Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, you know, the High Crusade. Have you read High Crusade yet?
I haven't. It's on my read list. I have a full list. I should really make a video on the books I have read, because a lot of them I have read are really good books.
I think that'd be a great video, dude. Yeah, definitely.
I will say, and I didn't expect to find this, but I'll grab it off my shelf real quick.
Okay. Now, one thing I'll mention while Necro has stepped away is there is a soft sequel to Three Hearts and Three Lions called A Midsummer's Tempest. I say a soft sequel because Holger has a cameo in it. So I recommend A Midsummer's Tempest 2.
Okay, so another book, Glenn Cook's The Black Company.
I know
it's on my to-read list. I have been told to read this book. It's the next book I'm reading.
I got to read that. That's going on the summer reading list, man.
Yeah. Terry Brooks did like the Sword of Shannara trilogy. Mm-hmm. His books get a lot of they get a lot of crap for not having an overall storyline. But when I read them, they're genuinely good books. It wouldn't be a great place to set like a D&D world in. Like I could take Three Hearts and Three Lions and set a D&D game in that. It's like it's very hard to take Middle Earth sometimes and set a D&D game in it, unless you put it in like between periods of the world. But Sword of Shannara as just a fantasy trilogy, also highly recommend.
Yes, but the Shannara books are Gamma World, not D&D, and that
is very true.
That's all I'm going to say about that, guys. You're going to have to read them yourself if you haven't.
No, I would full-heartedly agree. There's a bunch of books out there that are considered really like fantasy that I would almost consider more science, like Jack Vance's Dying Earth. It is D&D, but I would say it leans more Gamma World in a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one is oh gosh, I feel terrible. Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun. Have you read any Gene Wolfe?
I haven't.
I do recommend check out Gene Wolfe, the Book of the New Sun, The Shadow of the Torturer, The Claw of the Conciliator, the Sword of the Lictor, and The Citadel of the Autarch. Those are very Dying Earth / Gamma World. That they present as fantasy, but once you start getting into them, you're like, yes,
yeah.
So Vendor actually has a question. And I don't know if this is for you or for me, but I'm going to let you answer this. Have you read or were you influenced by any of the Conan novels?
I haven't read them. It's not the first one. It's the second Arnold Schwarzenegger film. God, I can't remember the name of it. It's Conan the something, obviously.
Conan the Destroyer.
Conan the Destroyer. The first one is not really a D&D adventure. I sat down and watched it. Good movie, not really a D&D adventure.
We can have a debate about that some other time, but suffice it, I respectfully disagree.
Oh, that's fair. I have my friends at home who disagree with me, but right. When I sat down and watched it, perhaps it needs rewatch. I'll rewatch it and see if my opinion changes. But the second Conan the Destroyer, I would say very much is a D&D game, and I could be confusing them. I could very well be confusing my Conan movies.
Okay, well, Conan the Barbarian, he breaks into the Tower of the Serpent, meets Valeria. They get sent to rescue King Osric's daughter, and he fights James Earl Jones, who, of course, was the man who murdered his family when he was a young boy. That's Conan the Barbarian.
Okay.
Conan the Destroyer is the Princess Tamaris wants Queen Tamaris wants Princess Gehenna brought to this certain place so a ritual can be performed, and she's going to be sacrificed to the god Dagon. And it's got Wilt Chamberlain and I forget the name of the actor who plays the new thief. And it's got Grace Jones in it.
I could definitely be confusing them because there were weren't there 3 movies, if I remember?
Well, so there's 2 Schwarzenegger Conan pictures, and a third picture was in development hell for so long.
Yeah.
That because the rumor floating around was that it was going to be called King Conan, because at the end of Conan the Barbarian, you get the narration by Mako that he was destined to wear the crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow, but that is another story. And then, we fade to credits in the reprise of Anvil of Crom. I can't recall how they ended Destroyer, but the thing was, well, we'll wrap up the movies with how he becomes the king of Aquilonia. It'll be called King Conan. And it was always my next picture. I hear they're working on a script. I definitely want to come back and do it. And then it just kind of got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And we finally got a Conan movie in, and somebody can look this up. I want to say it was 2013, 2012 with Jason Momoa. And it just went down like a wad of wet toilet paper.
That's the movie I'm thinking of. It's
okay.
It's from I think it's like 2011. Because one of them was Arnold Schwarzenegger, the other one wasn't. I may not have seen the original Conan the Barbarian because I just asked my mom to tape Conan the Barbarian.
Well, you need a tape. You need get on Amazon and get yourself a DVD, my friend, and
I
pop
will,
that in.
I will do that.
What are you doing up there? I'm watching Conan, Mom, crushing his enemies and hearing the lamentation of the women. Maybe don't do that, but
no, but yes, I definitely was inspired by the Conan, at least Conan the Destroyer. The amount of times I've had a storyline be someone's getting sacrificed, it's your job to go stop it. Like that's classic D&D, like archetypal stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it is. There are very good D&D tropes, but I think there's great D&D tropes in the first one, and I hope you see it. I know you're going to love it. William Shakespeare, love that handle, by the way. There was a Red Sonja, and Arnold's in Red Sonja with Brigitte Nielsen, but that is not. He does not play Conan in the Red Sonja movie, and it's damn hard to get a copy of Red Sonja unless that's changed recently.
But the thing I grabbed off my shelf, completely sidetracked myself here by talking about books. We have a Ren Fair in my town.
Excellent.
And there's a guy there who somehow bought the rights to the TSR Dragon Dice game. And so he is selling copies of Dragon Dice. And I sat down and played, I think it was probably 2 games with him for 30 minutes. Most interesting guy to talk to. Can't remember his name. If I find it, I'll post it in your Discord. He also writes a book similar to the Dragonlance series.
Okay.
And God, I can't remember the name of those books now either. And I don't think I have it up here. I think it's sitting downstairs because I'm still reading it. Great guy. I have never seen someone so willing to sit down and talk D&D history with me outside of like a game store or like a convention. Because like the Ren Fair is a place for a bunch of people, but this guy, we sat down and probably talked for an hour and a half about the Dragon Dice history and just D&D in general. He runs a bed and breakfast where he has a free-to-play D&D game if you come to his bed and breakfast.
Man, that sounds fantastic. That sounds absolutely amazing. And by the way, I did it is linked. It will scroll past, guys, because paint. Well, answer this question for Paint Minis Live. He's about to pop like a tick. Theater of the Mind or playing with minis. I know for oh, you're quite welcome, Spielberg. I know for a fact this young man has a 3D printer. So answer that question, please, for Paint Minis Live, would you?
So I would say for my home games, playing with minis, hands down. I have so much terrain. I have spent so much money on not printed printing minis I haven't printed, that it would be a shame to leave them collecting dust on my shelves. But if it's just, I have nothing against Theater of the Mind. My group can play Theater of the Mind or play with minis, especially with Arden Vol, something so vast. Majority of our game is Theater of the Mind, and we only use maps for combat. I have played full-on mini games where it's you move it like a board game when I was younger, but we started to do more of both. So mostly the map is just used for combat and tactical work. But I do definitely play with minis when I have to.
Okay, well, there you go. And I know why Paint Minis Live was asking that. It's right there in his handle, Vile Necromancer. But anyway, I just I don't want to have missed anything. And there was okay, so I'm not trying to be crass or make fun or anything because I didn't. But you didn't get to Gary Con this year, did you?
No, I didn't. Plans to go next year.
I hope you can make it, my friend. I absolutely hope you can make it. Oh, hey, PML, Bill T is reaching out to you there. I'll connect you guys if you're interested in doing a little team up there, Bill and Vile Necromancer. It's an offer from PML to paint up a mini for you.
Yeah, I'll definitely get in contact with him.
But yeah, I want to check it out too. But now there's so much stuff to do up there. You could go this summer. In a couple of months, Heidi and Eric are having Egg Con. Have you heard about that?
I have not. No.
Yeah, Heidi and Eric have got the E. Gary Gygax convention. There's Dragon Days this fall. Paul Steinberg's doing that.
Another funny story about that: one of the ladies that's helping with it works at my local Ren Fair.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, that is just great.
I talked to her for probably another hour because the guy who sold me the Dragon Dice told me if you're really into TSR and people who worked for TSR, go talk to her. And it's been so long, I can't remember her name. Sweetest lady ever. She runs a shop down there. If I run into her, I'll definitely mention her sometime on the channel. But she makes handmade dresses and cloaks. Just one of the sweetest people you can ever talk to.
That's great. That absolutely fits into the stuff that Paul is doing with Dragon Days. And I honestly, folks, if you're going to be up there, summer to autumn, you can't miss with Lake Geneva. It's beautiful country up there. Ryan will back me up. Anybody who hasn't been there, I don't so much recommend it in February, March.
No, they didn't put salt down on the roads last time I was up there, at least, and we had to wait for them to shovel out the hotel parking lot. To get it all moved.
That was nuts because I can't remember if I spoke to you. Yeah, we were leaving, and it was here my Florida ass is standing out there, in 3 layers of all the clothes that I own, shoveling snow off of our car with my Visa, like my Visa card.
I still have the picture, which is me sitting in the car while my mom had to go. She was getting something out of the trunk, but it's a picture of our snow-covered car with the caption, "Good morning, Wisconsin."
Yeah, wow. Because I woke up that morning when they said, okay, there's going to be a snowstorm. I woke up, I look outside, and I'm like, the ground is bare. There's no damn snowstorm coming. And that was at 4:30 in the morning. I woke up for good at 6, and there's 8 inches of snow on the ground, and it's not stopping.
it just like, I will say the trees on the resort, once you got to like the resort and they had like cleared the roadways, so you don't have to worry about the roadways. The trees covered in snow was a very picturesque and beautiful scene. The road leading up to the resort they were awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah, it was miserable. And after no, when the snow hit, my wife and I are like, we're not subjecting Wisconsin to Florida drivers, so we Ubered up to the hotel. That was just like the smart move. I just Ubered back to the resort, and just we didn't even bother with that. But no, that the day we left, we went down to Gary's paver stone in front of the fountain. Did you do that? Did you get go to the paver?
We didn't get a chance. No, we were on a time crunch getting back home. Yeah.
Well, there's going to be so much more Gygax stuff the next time you go up there. Yeah. You're going to have to decide which you want to see, not, can we make it to the one? But it was a bright, clear day. Was that the Monday? I feel like that was the Monday, or oh God, I don't remember. Maybe it was, I don't remember. But we got some pictures. We bumped into a buddy of mine. And as we're driving up the little side street to get out onto the main drag to start our journey to Milwaukee, my wife, who was driving, you remember Mrs. the Dungeon Delver, of course.
We do, yeah.
She pumps the brakes, and we hear this shunk, boom, and everything goes dim in the car, and we can't see out the windshield because the 6 inches of snow that were piled up in a perfect slab on top of the car broke loose, slid forward, and down the windshield. So
I have had to deal with that a couple of times. Being here from Iowa, it's it's one heck of a winter.
Yeah,
it's very cold. But no, I had to get to work one morning this year, and the forecast the day before said bright, sunny, 50 degrees. I was expecting bright, sunny, 50 degrees. I wake up my normal time. I don't give myself much extra time if I don't need it, which I've learned to start giving myself extra time even if I don't need it. Worst case scenario, I need it. I had probably a good 1.5 feet of snow on top of my car that I had to then take because I didn't have my own shovel. So I had to take a broom from inside the house and knock it off and then try to chisel at ice for probably like an hour.
Yeah. Wow.
It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just for Florida guys. So, but yeah, so that's, lots of cool stuff is going to be going on in Lake Geneva now. And I really hope they finally, it's only taken them 50 years to get their heads around the idea that, hey, D&D might be good for our little resort town, especially when there's nothing the frick to do between.
Because all the rich people go up there during the summer, but then all leave during the winter. So there's not.
They're all down here. They all come here, Ryan. I know.
Yeah. No, but I had my school librarian went up after I went up in the summer, and she goes, I didn't realize that there were houses up there that, they just casually were talking about. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is like a $3 million house. It's only used half of the year. This is these McMansions up there, and they're just like these gorgeous things. You find out they're only used half the year. If I had a house that was built $3 million, I'm living in that year round, especially if it's in Lake Geneva.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you know what's so serendipitous is was it over the summer? I feel like it was during the past summer or maybe even the springtime. I'm not. Are you familiar with the YouTuber Tom Scott?
I don't believe I am.
He's kind of one of those world interest guys. He's got like 15 million subscribers because he'll do stuff like, I'm here in Sweden where they're, this close to having fusion energy. And then the next week, I'm in Florida eating the hottest oyster sauce ever created. And then the week after that, I'm in I'm in Osaka, Japan, where pearls are being created in a lab, and just literally just stuff all over the world. Well, one week he went to Lake Geneva and did the mailboat thing. So mail is delivered dockside.
Yeah.
And they have a mailboat. He heard about that and went there, and it just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, dude, you went to Lake Geneva and not a pip about Dungeons and Dragons. What is wrong with you, Tom? You're not the nerd you led us to believe.
As I'm looking around for colleges, I have a friend who's currently going to I don't know how I got into this, but I'm going to college, decided major in history, minor in education, goal to be a college history professor. And the goal is to do kind of a Greg Gillespie type thing and just spend like the rest of my years making really cool games with history in them. But I have a couple other friends, one of which is going to school for music, and I have another friend who's going to school for film studies, and we're all in a D&D group. And I said, if we get one of us to go to school for writing, and this was before my friend had announced he's going to school for an English major, I said, if we get someone to go for like English or writing, we really need to make a D&D documentary together. And so now we kind of have all the pieces to make this really good D&D documentary with a bunch of people who are from the Midwest, really close to Lake Geneva. So hopefully when I'm an adult, there will be a really great D&D documentary that comes out.
Well, on that note, dude, and again, you're a busy young man. You've got a lot going on. I'm not sure if you caught the show. I had Pat Kilbane on, and Pat has produced, just in my opinion, to date so far, the best D&D documentary, The Dreams in Gary's Basement.
Has that officially come out?
It's out. I'll stick the link up, with all respect to Tom Scott, which is what that video is for. I think this is a bit more, let me see here. This is a bit more important. But we had Pat on, and Pat talked about The Dreams in Gary's Basement, and it is it's done, it's up, it is worth your while. Let me see. We Egg Harbor Cafe cannot recommend Dooms. Sorry. RPGhistory.net. The show I did with Pat Kilbane, I'll put that up on the screen for you guys too. Let me see here.
I had heard about this from the YouTube channel Dorks of Yore a long time ago, who put out my favorite interview with Tim Kask. It's like a 2-hour-long uncut interview of Tim Kask goodness that every year I kind of go back and rewatch, and I always pick up something new from it. But I didn't realize it had come out.
Yeah, it's out. Pat talks a very we had a lot of fun with Pat on the show. So I would heartily recommend, even if you don't watch my show, it's fine, dude. It's fine. I'm just out there sending people to your channel and whatever. But do watch the movie. It's rpghistory.net, which actually I think is more important than my video, but rpghistory.net. That is The Dreams in Gary's Basement. They do it streaming. Pat said physical copies were going to happen. Mm-hmm. So if you're a guy like me, own your movies, own your books, own your records, own your music. Don't leave that stuff on somebody else's computer. PML, well, the important word of the day. Thank you for the super PML. Play never ages. Keep playing, and you'll never need to grow up. Agree. So watch it, stream it, live it, enjoy it. I do recommend that you see it.
The other thing I watched back when I kind of really got into D&D documentaries, I watched Secrets of Blackmore, And whether you're on the Arneson or the Gygax side, I really liked Secrets of Blackmore for what it presented. And that's why I was so looking forward to Dreams in Gary's Basement. And I'm glad that it finally came out, so I can now sit down and have 2 D&D documentaries that I can watch.
Yeah, I'm showing a little. This is not Gygax fanboyism.
Yeah.
I have opinions, man. I have opinions. But I tend to lean towards Gary's view of it. What was Dave instrumental to RPGs? Absolutely, unquestionably. No Dave Arneson. TSR continues on as an obscure war games company until they get bought by Avalon Hill.
And I have to say that I think Dave Arneson was really instrumental in creating role-playing games as a whole. Gary was very instrumental in creating the foundation of Dungeons and Dragons as a whole.
Well, Gary created Dungeon. I mean, it is a matter of court record.
Yeah.
When all this came up and Arneson was asked, did you write any Dungeons and Dragons? Not a word of it. There's not a word in those books that I wrote. Again, and this is something Paul Stormberg and I have talked about this. Gary asked Rob Kuntz, 17-year-old Rob, and said, what do we do with it? I mean, what this guy showed us is amazing. How do we proceed forward with this? And Rob was like, I don't know. Maybe we play our chainmail games and then write the stories down and sell novels of it. I mean, they literally, it was like, showing a Zippo lighter to a caveman almost, not to denigrate Gary's intelligence, but it was kind of one of those moments, showing a cell phone, a modern cell phone to an early computer programmer in the 1940s, right? But once Gary got rolling on Dungeons and Dragons was Gary's baby.
Yeah.
And I think that Gary made a mistake in how he worded the creation of Dungeons and Dragons by saying it was by Gygax and Arneson. Dave Arneson absolutely deserved accolades and thank you, but not co-authorship.
Yes.
And I think that caused a world of troubles for Gary. But that, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because that is a whole that is a whole mess of stuff. That is a whole mess of stuff. But so you've got projects happening. You've got a film, basically your documentary you're going to do coming up. You said you're playing Ardenville.
Yes. And that's I own the books, not the PDFs. I own the books. I was very instrumental in I want to own the books. And I also I kind of fiddle around with other games though. Mostly my home game. If it's a campaign, I'm running Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. But I've been fiddling around with Dragon Slayer, which is Greg Gillespie's. Is it Dragon Slayer? I think it is. It's his RPG that came out.
See, that does my head in, because there is a fantasy movie that actually Disney released, a live action fantasy movie in the 80s called Dragon Slayer. And I'm like, is this? No, it's not. It has nothing to do with Vermithrax pejorative or anything like that. But anyway, please continue.
No, but it also, that is when, of course, when I search it, that's the first thing that comes up is the Disney movie, not the Greg Gillespie game. But no, that has been a game that I've been fiddling around with. I fiddle around some with Osric, but Osric is almost exactly interchangeable with AD&D in most cases. I really only use Osric if I need like a price on like parchment and I don't want to just throw a random price out there. Generally, They have a pretty good price in their equipment list. But no, I started a game of Ardenville probably about 2 months ago, but the group was made of a couple seniors and we just kind of fell off. So I started course, I had most of my prep work done for the game. And I'm going to put this out here because it's nowhere on the internet. It's literally nowhere on the internet. If you're going to run Arden Vol, it's this like big Egyptian area. My piece of advice for this game is don't start them in the town. Start them at the base of the cliff in the adventure, and give them the rumor of the pyramid and prep the first level, like the third level of the pyramid and some of the ruined city. That's all you need for about your first 3 to 4 sessions. It's enough game content for that much. It's this sprawling mega dungeon. They will not clear it, I promise you. If they go in other directions, by all means, prep those areas, but that's what you start with. That's what I started with. They haven't even figured out how to get past level 3 yet.
Well, there you go, guys. Notes from a master. I hope everybody wrote that down. Or if you're watching this later, pause, write it down, and then continue the video, because I've not tackled Ardenville. We just started in my Monday night game. That one's been going on a decade now. We just started G1. So
okay.
I'm sending them in against the Giants, and we're going to see what happens there. But Ardenville may be on the menu. So there's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah.
Gary's original Rapan Epic, Ardenville, of course. So many things beyond the table for modules, or beyond the TSR table, rather.
Something that doesn't get enough credit, because we all know Barrow Maze by Greg Gillespie. That was this big project that came out.
Yes.
If you want a Mines of Moria experience set in a D&D world, pick up Dwaro Deep. It is his dwarven-themed adventure. These dwarves have been cast out of the mountains by forces within. There are so many great factions that your characters can interact with and sway by not killing them, but actually making deals with them. Highly recommend Dwaro Deep. I ran my players through it. We played just a mini campaign in it to clear out the first hall. They loved it. We still talk about that game today. Greg Gillespie is such a good author in the fact that you can put his settings really in any campaign.
That's excellent, man. That's a good. That is good stuff. So we gotta soundboard the blurb here, my dude. So let me do this.
Gungathal lies in ruins. Over 250 years ago, an evil host rose from the Underdark and pushed the dwarves out of their ancestral mountains. Since that time, orcs and worse have defiled their sacred halls. In recent days, the High Dwarven clerics cast their runestones and read the portents. The time has come to retake Gungathal. Are you brave or foolish enough to enter Dwaro Deep?
And I think to go along with that, I do have to show off this cover here.
All right, let's see it. I have no idea how that sounded, guys. So if it was just like...
Oh, no, it gave off all the themes of Dwaro Deep.
Oh,
he makes old module type covers. And that is one of the coolest covers I think I've ever seen.
That is awesome. I love it. Hey, Bob Gnarly, welcome back. I always 3D printing is a hobby unto itself. Yeah, it pretty much is. I always say that with 3D printing, when you're printing filaments, the hobby is robotics. Miniatures are a byproduct. Which, by the way, I asked Mrs. the Dungeon Delver if she wanted to hop on, but of course she has to work in the mornings. But since she's not here and she doesn't watch my streams either live or in the afterwards, she claimed that table as her own, dude. It's not like if you're looking around for it, peeking up, or is it? It's on her desk in her work area of the house. I don't have it anymore, but so fear not. It is here and loved, just and kept away from me. But no, the 3D filament printing, the hobby is robotics. Miniatures are a byproduct. With 3D resin printing, the hobby is creating toxic waste. Miniatures are the byproduct.
and I think it's funny that you mentioned some of my miniatures. I upscaled it a little bit from just miniatures to making props for my games to hand out to my players. And we all know the hand and eye of Vecna, right? This is like a big thing
absolutely.
in D&D. I'm gonna grab that.
You have one. You have a hand and eye of Vecna you've created. I can't wait to see this. This is going to be good. This is going to be good.
So, my players found this, which is it's aluminum foil and aluminum duct tape, and this is a ping pong ball and aluminum foil behind it. But it gives a very, the aluminum foil over with the aluminum duct tape makes a very good wrinkled corpse hand texture.
Oh, I love it.
And I had one player who found this early on in the campaign and didn't know what it was. So he gave it to a very high level wizard to look over, and then later found this and just carried around in his pocket as a trinket for I don't know how long until they figured out the connection between the two.
Oh, that is horrifying. That is horrifying. Yeah. And of course, you know what you got to do next is the head of Vecna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know the head of Vecna story, I'm sure, right?
I do.
Yes, the head of Vecna. Vaughn, when are we going to do an appendix and a fantasy? I don't know, Vaughn. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I got a lot going on. So another question for you, Vile. Are you going to attend the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention, the GWOC? Are you going to join us in a few weeks?
I do plan to. I do need to remember where the registry is at, though.
Well, I am glad you asked that, because now is the time to share. Let's switch over to that. Let's and copy. So for all you folks who are wondering, what is he talking about? Is he going to take Vile to some taqueria near him? No, I am talking about the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention, the third. It is a convention. It is a convention unlike many others, because this convention, you don't have to go anywhere. You can do this from the comfort of your own den, wherever you have internet, whether it's on your mobile phone, your laptop at Starbucks, your big PC Master Race computer at home. You can game 5 days. 5 days of tabletop RPG fun. Sign up for games. Sign up for a game. We're going to have drawings. We're going to have giveaways. We've got a sponsor. We are sponsored. At least one of our sponsors this year is Mythmere Games. They are leaning into some sponsorship fun. We have an artist alley, and we have merch. Dungeon Minister has merch. And we got merch for all 3 cons. So if you want merch for, have you got any GWOC merch yet?
I haven't. It is on the list though.
You're a working man.
Yeah, I'm a working now. Yeah,
you're a working man. But we have merch over on the Dungeon Minister's page. Let me see if I can bring that up also. And guys, the cost to you, by the way, once you subtract that you don't have to drive or get a hotel room, the cost comes out to, let me see, because taxes vary. 0. It's 0. It's free. There's no, I have a diamond badge so I can go to this game, and you only have a silver badge so you can only go to these games. No. You just show up, sign up, and game. And there's a link, and there's no reason not to. So let me see. Bob Gnarly just started a channel. Send me that link, Bob, and I'll promote you. Let's see. But here we are. Now this will take you, you know what? I'm just going to send you to the main page, folks. If you want merch, our good friend Vile Necro here. Death Angel Shadow, greetings. So there you go. There's merch for the convention. And be like Vile Necromancer. Attend the GWOC. It's Wednesday to Sunday. Surely there will be something you can find to play in. I'm going to be running games. I'm going to be running board game demos and how to play first edition AD&D and Lord knows what else. Other people are running stuff. We've got Wheeling Dragon is running a Labyrinth like the movie with David Bowie. There's an RPG for that. I'm gonna play in that. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Hey, Don McVitie. Speaking of cool people, welcome. So we've got all kinds of fun stuff lined up for the Glock, guys. No reason to not join in. So
another TSR game that I've recently gotten into playing, not really DMing, was Boot Hill. Which, if you want some Wild Western fun, Boot Hill's a great game.
And you can dovetail it into AD&D.
You can, yeah. I did take their the shooting, the hit locations table for my player who has a flintlock pistol. He found it amidst the ruins of a pirate ship, and he has taken the flintlock pistol. And our magic user has it's just melting down lead, and our magic user already needed gunpowder for his material components, so they just buy mass supplies of gunpowder. So
there you go, and that's that can be kind of tricky, but then there's firearms in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
Yep.
And I don't think it necessarily ruins that. I don't know that I would necessarily allow firearms in my game, but the rules are there to be used and to have fun with. And when I say my game, I don't mean like any game I run ever. I just like the Monday night game, you know. But and I cribbed those for making the Shadow over Lake Geneva, which is a 1940s Lovecraftian or Call of Cthulhu like adventure, but you run it with AD&D rules. So I just when Heidi and Eric said, hey, can you make these characters from 5e into AD&D for us? I was like, no problem. You also need firearms. Yes. So I grabbed my Dungeon Master's Guide and just copied it, copied and pasted.
I keep firearms to be very limited, and they're still wildly inaccurate. And I tell my players that going into the game. There are firearms. These are smooth bore weapons. They do not always shoot exactly straight.
Yeah. You got to it's open pan matchlock, right?
Yeah.
You're in a damp dungeon. Maybe your gun just doesn't fire.
Well, funnily enough, my player who has the flintlock, it's currently broken because he decided I'm going to put it on my belt and swim with it. It breaks the mechanics of the gun. He gets out and then tries to fire it at a goblin. I go, it clicks, nothing happens. And he goes, well, why? And I go, because you're sopping wet head to toe and your gun is soaked. Yeah. So I think he's just chucked it at this point. I think he's trying to fix it, but he chucked it aside and just drew his sword and then went for it.
Yeah. And that's, some of the early war games, pike and shot, it's like, oh, okay. So, it's muskets and they can use, they can use halberds if they have to. Generally speaking, pike and shot games, if they're short ones that only last a couple of hours, you might have like 2 or 3 volleys per side.
Yeah.
The rest of it is sword. And these are games set in like the 1400s. So what we even consider a modern firearm didn't roll around until, and I'm going to get a lot of people are going to say, no, they had machine guns, they had puckle guns, and the British had paper and cloth cartridges. No, guys, come on. Let's be realistic. We're talking about actual usable, regular, everybody has one. Modern firearms didn't really hit till the 1870s. So,
well, it came like right after the Civil War. It was really the time when people started switching. They realized, well, we just fought a war and we had to continuously reload all the time. Maybe more than one shot in a gun is what we need. And so they started making these guns up, and it have just expanded over time to hold more and more and be easier and easier for use. Because, we figured out standing in a line and firing bullets at each other and missing all but one guy is not the most effective way to make a firearm.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Well, I mean, it all sounds like you're just having an absolute blast. And now I get why the channel updates have been so few and far between. You've been having fun doing other stuff, and
Yeah,
I don't blame you at all, man.
no, it's I struggled for a time because I was going in between groups, and we had really tried to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, I really need to figure out. So I decided to start keeping an attendance sheet behind the counter of who can really make it and reasons why they made it. I have one guy who just didn't want to show up. He made that very clear. He just wasn't into D&D. And I understood it. I told him no harm, no foul. Him and I are still really good friends. And so I got 3 or 4 guys, and I've played with them for forever now. And all of us we all bring something to the table. We have one paladin currently, John the Fourth, played by my friend Nathan, who is the the absolute epitome of a paladin when it comes down to most of these things, like lawful good to a fault. I asked him, do you need the code that I use for most of my paladins? And he goes, I workshop something. What are your thoughts? And it's stricter than what I would have given him. It's
Wow.
like he goes all into it. And I go, I'm all for it. But
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, it sounds like things are going really well for you now. And I just saw it and I was like, no, you're come here, sit down, whatever you going to. But I do want to. We're gonna collab here a little bit on answering a question from Michael Murtig. I'm gonna give Michael some of mine, and then you let me know if you have any, because he says besides D&D, what are some good medieval TTRPGs? So Warhammer Fantasy role play, MERP Middle Earth role play. You've got Rollmaster. I mean, technically Hero System, but then Hero System, does everything. It's really complex. I would say Harn, if you want to go way back. Did I miss any that you'd like to put in? He's grabbing
2
books
that are on my shelf. First
books.
one, Chivalry and Sorcery.
CNS, there you go.
It is a good system, nay, a great system. It's complex, but once you have it figured out, it is one of the easiest games to teach someone. Similar to AD&D, you really need one person to really understand. I would say with any game, you need one person who really understands the rules.
Sure.
So I sat down and learned how to play it. It is literally, you take very realistic medieval society and put fantasy in it.
Okay.
The second game that I would say is very similar is Zweihander Grim and Perilous. It's very low fantasy, but it is very grim dark. But it has a very realistic magic casting system in which spells can fail.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I actually have a copy of Zweihander myself right here. I should have just held this up. Here's my copy.
Oh yeah,
Zweihander. Sorry, I have opinions about Mr. Fox and his efforts, but no, I think it's fine if you don't want to try and track down one of these and you want a physical copy, then you can't get more of a copy than that.
So funnily enough, I agree with you. The only reason I suggest Zweihander is this is available a lot like in most places. Yes, and my local game store still does carry copies of Warhammer Fantasy. And there's another game that's very similar to Warhammer Fantasy called Warlock, which I also really like to play. But it's very much just like a retro a retro clone of Warhammer Fantasy. Also a good game. But no, Zweihander, if you don't want to play Warhammer Fantasy, this is the wannabe Warhammer, I would say.
Yeah, that is, it is what it is. It is what it is. And I understand people are very divided on it. we can say a thing without giving, without giving power to any things. We just don't. I'm aware, Vaughn. Thank you.
We
But
missed the most important game that isn't D&D, Dungeon Crawl Classics.
DCC, I think that I think that's I think that is an absolutely a fair assessment. DCC. Something I wish I could say Hackmaster, but that to quote Morrissey, that joke's not funny anymore. I mean, it exists. Okay, it exists. You can absolutely. I shouldn't let personal preferences seep into a simple listing, but yeah, you can get Dungeon Crawl Classics, Hackmaster, but one that we haven't really touched on that I personally feel like probably should get mentioned, and Don McVitie actually let this fly earlier, was Earth Dawn from FOSSA, which I think I don't know if they're Catalyst Game Labs or somebody else bought the Earth Dawn properties, or if it's just not anymore. But yeah, Earth Dawn.
And we mentioned Mythmere Games before. I think it's more than relevant to mention Matt Finch's Swords and Wizardry.
Definitely. That's OD&D with the serials filed off.
It is, yeah.
But it is, it is. Let's see. It merits mentioning. I think all of the clones, and a lot of people have said this to me, and I know you and I have had this discussion that people have come up and said, well, I play Osric because it's like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but better because, it's easier to understand. And I'm like, you poor illiterate, how sad for you.
It's a great supplement for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and that's my 2 cents on the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know the people who my name is in the my name is in the Osric book because I did 3 or 4 monsters for it, and it's almost a joke between myself and the creators. The creators are the people who really made it. I know them, and they would tell you straight up, play AD&D. play AD&D. This is so you can publish AD&D without getting sued.
Yeah, I played in an Osric game, and it was a good game. The problem was our dungeon master really didn't understand THAC0 and was really against anyone telling him how THAC0 worked. And I want to say, like, there was an older guy, myself, and then another younger guy who really played AD&D, and we all left probably about after 4 or 5 sessions because this guy was just dead set on this is how THAC0 worked. He didn't say the ruling of this is how THAC0 works in my game. It was this is how THAC0 works, and then he started arguing about how this is how Gary Gygax wanted THAC0 to work, and that's where we all got a little upset. And he had only ever read Osric. And I just suggested suggested to him that he read through at least the Player's Handbook of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and see if that changes his mind a little bit.
Yeah. What I don't think that anything that I do when I play AD&D is the definitive way.
Yeah.
If somebody says to me, I want to know how to play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I will say, okay, this is the interpretation that works for me. If you read the rules and you come away with something, you're like, wait a minute, that Bill Sylvie's not telling the truth. Look, I'm playing it in the most mechanically, smoothly operating system I can. I am playing it exactly to the afterword, I go with the spirit of the rules, but it absolutely comes down in places to what works for your game and what doesn't. I think a lot of for lack of a better term, and this is not an age thing. I mean, my friend, and I consider this to be a compliment, and please take it as one. I consider you a grognard. Okay, you are a grognard. You are an old grumbler. You're an old campaigner. But you know, whether you're a grognard or just starting out, the key thing that you have to remember is that it is the spirit of the rules, not the letter written, that's important.
Yeah.
So I don't, you know, people who get so hidebound and caught up, I'm like, look at me, Vile. How much time do you think I've got left? I don't want to spend that arguing about rules.
and that's the reason we left. It detracted from the game. You can't just sit there and we just simply had mentioned to him because it was a guy on Reddit and he had posted this game.
Oh well, there's your problem.
Yeah, but he had posted and he said, and he was looking for feedback because this was you know, he was very new to Osric and he wanted some feedback. And so when he had like a little forum, we all kind of said, hey, this is how we interpreted THAC0. We think it might run a little smoother in the game because the way I run THAC0 is relatively, it's not exactly to the rule, but it's what's worked for my group. So I suggested it to him. And then when when he comes back and attacks us the next session, I think is really where we started getting peeved about it. And because like in my house rules, I'm getting my friend to make a sign that says, I may be the DM, but feel free to give comments so I can hang it above my area where I sit when I DM. Because I've always gone by that rule. I may be the DM, and yes, I will give the final say, but you're more than welcome to tell me, hey, I think this might be a good way to, suggest things. Always make suggestions. My players do it all the time, whether I tell them, yes, we'll run it that way, or we're just going to continue to run it this way. That's a different story, but always suggest things.
Yeah, and I mean, this actually came up. Doomsword was mentioning this. 2-hit armor class 0 won't account for repeating 20s in the charts, and I always tell people that is, they'll. I could never go back to old D&D because THAC0 is dumb. Like, you're right, absolutely. 2-hit armor class 0 is dumb. It's only there for monsters. AD&D doesn't use that. We have a chart.
Yeah.
We have a chart. All I have to do is glance at the chart. I don't need your formula that's better because it goes up and not down. And I don't need THAC0 because, I can just do that. I have a chart. Yeah. I can look at the chart. And THAC0 does not take into account repeating 20s. So, therefore, where is the official rule description on charge? We've got Wenger's just like going in hardcore and wants me to put class in session here. Okay, so we'll do this, and then I'm sure you would probably like to get some shut eye. I know I need to, so we're gonna look at this. Do you know where the official charge rules are?
God, it's been forever. It's somewhere in the combat section, but I don't know exactly what page.
So here we are. It's on page 66. It's right when the combat section, or right near where the combat section starts, I think. But page 66. So here we are. And I will put this up on the screen. Let's see. Stop sharing, present, share screen, window, share. Okay, so here we go. You kids just gimme. That's what you're all about. It doesn't necessarily have to be Michael. Charge. This action brings the charging party into combat on the charge round, but there are a number of considerations when it is taken. Movement rate outdoors, movement bonus for charging in normal outdoor settings is 33 1/3% of base speed for bipedal, 50% for quadrupeds. So there's your answer to horse. Movement rate indoors. The indoor dungeon rate is greatly reduced due to the conditions. Therefore, all movement of the charge is double base speed. Remembering that encumbered creatures are not allowed to charge. Note, the opponent must be within 10 feet distance at the termination of the charge in order for any blows to be struck during that round. Armor class of charging creatures. There is no dexterity bonus allowed for charging creatures. Creatures with no dexterity bonus become one armor class lower, i.e. easier to hit. Thus, an AC 3 creature becomes AC 4. There is no penalty to AC 10 creatures for charging, however. So charge naked. Melee at the end of charge. Initiative is not checked at the end of charge movement. The opponent with a longer weapon / reach attacks first. Charging creatures gain +2 on their 2 hit dice if they survive any non-charging or charging opponent attacks which occur first. Weapon length and first strike are detailed under strike blows. Only one charge move may be made each turn, thus an interval of 9 rounds must take place before a second charge movement can be made. Set weapons against possible opponent charge. Setting weapons is simply a matter of bracing such piercing weapons as spears, spiked polearms, forks, glaives, etc., so as to have the butt of the shaft braced against an unyielding surface. The effect of such a weapon upon a charging or leaping, pouncing, falling, or otherwise onrushing, including dragons plummeting out of the sky towards you. Opponent is to cause such opponent to impale himself and take double damage if a hit is so scored. Example, character A sets her spear with its butt firmly braced against the floor, just as a giant toad hops at her. If the spear impales a creature, it will score double indicated damage, d8 times 2. Note that in this case, initiative is automatically given to the set spear, as it will obviously take effect prior to any attack routine of the toad, and that 2 dice are not rolled, but the result of the d8 is multiplied by 2. Very nasty. So there are your charge rules. And there you are. Vaughn? That will happen when bad guys have spears. See, what you haven't paid attention to, Vaughn, is the fact that when the party is charged, the opponents have never had spears. Ever. It hasn't come up. So,
I think the only time it's ever come up is Bandit Camp that was made of militiamen who assumed the players were coming and stood at the gate, spear in one hand, dagger in the other, like the old pikemen in the English Civil War, and braced their spears for the incoming charge because they assumed it was going to happen. Especially when you have a paladin on a horse with a lance coming at you.
Wonderful Wizard of Games said, could a Death Knight make for a good campaign villain in AD&D? Absolutely. Death Knights are bad news. There are some of the few monsters in Fiend Folio that I like.
I was just about to say, if you need a good villain in your campaign, look through the Fiend Folio.
Look through good one-off villains. If it's in the Fiend Folio and it's really good, it was probably written by the official USTSR offices. If you're like, how did this get it? It probably came from White Dwarf's Fiend Factory column.
Yeah.
That is as easy as I can explain it. And I say that as a person who's created many stupid monsters. Anyone who saw my original website back in 2000 knows how awful the monsters I created for that thing were.
The funniest monster in D&D, at least one of them, to put against your players is the Boulder, which was in the Monster Manual 2, which is basically a rock with a mouth on it that rolls around and attempts to topple onto players and just eat them.
Yes.
It is hilarious. And whenever my players see rolling rocks in any situation, even if it's just magic, they assume boulders and run.
Well, that's not an incorrect assumption. I've always said that somewhere in Castle Delve, nay Greyhawk, is there's a room where the ceiling has a lurker above, the floor is covered by a trapper, any furniture is a mimic. There is a dead sapling in a pot in the corner is a camfolt. Hanging from its branches are a cloaker and an executioner's hood. So, And now I can throw the boulder in there, or bowler, or whatever it was called. What is the monster in first ed that I never want to battle? The monster in first edition AD&D that I never want to battle is the huge ancient red dragon. 88-point breath weapon, flyby attacks, sees invisible, bites for 6 to 36. I mean, that's leaving deities and whatnot out of it. So, but I think, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, man?
I'm trying to think I guess just keep your eye out on my channel. There'll be some videos, however frequent the posting will be, I don't know. I plan to really go more into bigger content as my my channel moves forward, because that's what I find myself finding most enjoyable. It's really taking times to do some larger projects, and just keep an eye out on the channel. But trying to think, other than just that, check, so as I'm going to say from now on, support your local game stores. The amount of time, the guys at my local game store, I have been in there so often that I'm on the first name basis with almost all of them. I go in there for my Magic Gathering cards when I play vintage Magic. They're thinking about, I'm trying to get them to let me do a small little convention at their store for AD&D. And I'm equipping my other friend as the dungeon master. So
free RPG day.
Yeah.
Do it for free RPG day. That's my recommendation.
But no, there was another game store near my friend. It was it shut down, sadly, because not enough people went. Yep. And so if you got a local game store, yes, there's the convenience of buying it online, but go in, even if it's just, once a month to buy a mini or some paints, go in and support them somehow, some way.
Show them some love. Yes.
But that's kind of the really big thing I'm pushing for, especially with my friends. We're not, if we don't support them now, we won't have them when we really need them. And it's something we do really need, especially with this hobby, because it's a place where the gamers, it is the Gamers Guild Hall. The local game store is the Gamers Guild Hall, and I'll stand by that. But yeah, those are probably my last closing comments.
All right. Well, listen, man, thank you for hey, Dungeon Minister's just getting here as we are wrapping up. I'm sorry, it is already tomorrow morning, Dungeon Minister, and you missed Vile Necromancer. You'll have to watch the whole stream again. But we love
check out his channel.
Absolutely. Subscribe to Dungeon Minister. And guys, I've said this before, and I've said this about Vile Necromancer. I've said it about Dungeon Minister, who is awesome.
He's Bob another guy
who has a channel. Guys, we're not in competition with each other.
No,
I want everybody. If I woke up tomorrow and we all had 500,000 subscribers, that would be the most awesome thing in the world. We are not competing against each other. I want everyone who subscribes to my channel, all 5,625, to go subscribe to Vile Necromancer and Dungeon Minister, and now Bob Gnarly's painting channel, and Paint Minis Live, and anything else you guys are doing. I want you to enjoy them and watch their videos, give them likes, spread it around, because the YouTube algorithm is not friendly to small creators. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and YouTube likes it that way. Let's screw with their algorithm a little bit.
Coming from someone who uses these videos while prepping, like for my D&D sessions, you can't get better content for AD&D out here than these small creators who talk about AD&D. I mean, everyone's take is so important, and it's like having some of the greatest minds in the world sit down at a table and tell you how physics science works. But instead, we're talking about something even better. We're talking about magic and goblins. I mean, you can't get any better than this.
That's right. Darn tootin'. So listen, thank you for just jumping in. It was absolutely lovely to see you. Don't be a stranger. You know, if you're hanging out, you're like, Bill, you streaming tonight? You need a guest? Just ask me. I'd love to see more of you around here. Good luck with everything that you do, because you do very well. And I was so happy that you jumped on. I'm gonna put these kids to bed. So I'll just slide you over here. And guys, thank you everyone for hanging out with me for the late night stream. I didn't know I'd have this much energy. I didn't know this was going to be this much fun. Pray to the male gods that package reaches Paul on time tomorrow, and hope that it is not waylaid by any owl bears. Good night. God bless.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around, some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.